Mario Odyssey might be one of the most ambitious yet weirdest games in the entire franchise to me. It's one of my favorites for sure, but I can't ignore just how obscure the entire concept of Odyssey actually is. This game features Mario basically becoming the enemies that he fights all the time, as he possesses them, or captures them. Never in a million years did I think there'd be realistic dinosaurs in a Mario game, much less playable ones at that. Needless to say, there's some pretty weird things about this game. Love it or hate it, you have to admit that Mario Odyssey is a strange video game. It is such an odd yet delightful departure from what we normally see in the series. I'm not going to cover every single facet of what makes this game such an oddball in the series, but in this video I do want to highlight a couple things that really make this game so strange to me. If you like this kind of content and want to see more of it in the future, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe on the video and let me know in the comment section down below that you enjoyed it. Anyway, let's jump right off into it. One of my biggest early on complaints with Mario Odyssey was the lack of the Koopalings as well as Bowser Jr. You see, if the whole premise of the game is Bowser preparing for this big wedding with him and Peach, I figured the expectation would be that Bowser's family would be there to go see him off get married and participate with him in this celebratory moment. I mean, these are characters who have been with Bowser through the very thick of it. They've been with Bowser since the very beginning and have always been fighting Mario. So to see them really not included during this adventure, or Bowser's next scheme, is kind of odd, especially because this is one of Bowser's biggest grand gestures we've seen from him in years. Normally it's just Bowser kidnapping Peach, and that is happening here in Odyssey, but we never really see what's going on behind the scenes. And in this game, we do. For the first time in years, we understand exactly what Bowser's trying to do, and his entire thought process on what it takes to marry Peach. I kinda got over the fact that the Koopalings weren't at Bowser's wedding, even though they rightfully should have been. However, I feel like Bowser Jr. is the bigger issue here. This is Bowser's son, and the fact that he's not going to be at this wedding and a whole bunch of strangers that Bowser basically just met and stole from different islands are now at the wedding and not his own son, it's really weird. And quite honestly, I find it to be a little bit upsetting. I mean, you could have had Bowser Jr. be the ring bearer, even though this was a huge ring that you were holding. I digress, let's move on and talk about the Broodals now. The most interesting thing about the Broodals to me is the sheer fact that they actually don't even work for Bowser. They're contracted individuals who are hired just for this one time to prepare for the wedding between Bowser and Peach. Basically meaning, in ordinary circumstances, these individuals would have no real allegiance to Bowser at all. Instead, they work for Madame Brood. Aside from the fact that we know almost hilariously little about these characters, Bowser hired them, but for what reason? I feel like they did a job that the Koopalings could have easily done. And again, this is not my hate on the Broodals, I have no disdain towards them at all, I just think it's very strange how Bowser would go out of his way and hire these new individuals, which probably cost him more money than it would have to just have the Koopalings take care of it, since they actually work for Bowser. Personally, I like to believe that since the Broodals live on the dark side of the moon, perhaps that in order for Bowser to acquire that venue for his wedding, he needed their permission, so I guess he hired them and also got their location. I don't believe that any of that is confirmed, but I think that makes the most sense. But even then, it doesn't necessarily explain why the Koopalings couldn't have been involved at all, and the same goes for Bowser Jr. But I guess there are just some questions that are just always going to be left unanswered. There's no question that this game did a lot of good for the Mario franchise, however it sparked a lot of interesting controversy. That being said, people began to question whether or not Mario was actually a human. If you follow the Super Mario game series, you know that we never actually had a proportionally accurate human character in these games. They're always either looking like Princess Peach, Mario, or Toad. And even then, the closest we actually get to an accurate human-looking character is Princess Peach, which is still pretty cartoony. That in mind, when this game introduced New Donk City and brought in all these human-like looking characters, people began to question if Mario was actually one of them. And to further fan the flames, we even find out from this concept art that the humans at one point in time were made to look similar to how Mario did. But I guess it was a deliberate choice to make them look completely different. In the end, it leads us right back to our main question here: is Mario actually a human? And this actually takes us to an interview with Kento Motokura during 2017's E3 in June. Motokura confirmed that Mario is still human, even though he looks completely different than all the characters in New Donk City. In the end, Mario is just as human as you and I are. Or I guess, fictionally speaking, anyway. Another pretty interesting thing about this game that isn't nearly as controversial as what I just talked about here is the fact that Yoshi is in it, yet he can't be ridden on. Now, I know the whole mechanic of the game is capturing other characters and being able to play as them, and in that sense you can play as Yoshi, but this game kind of changes the overall appeal of Yoshi as a character, in which that before he was used as a mode of transportation, but in this game he's presented more of like a character or a mob of some kind, where Mario can just kind of capture and utilize at his own will. In this sense, Yoshi is still being used as a mode of transportation, but not nearly in the same way that he was before. And I actually kind of like it this way. Both are perfectly fine, but it would have been really cool to have Mario Odyssey be able to use both, where Mario can ride on Yoshi, but also capture him as well. Not that it would have made that much of a difference, but it's nice to have those options. But that's enough about dinosaurs. Now let's move on and talk about some of the fire-breathing turtles that this franchise has to offer, more specifically, the final boss of the game, Bowser. There's nothing inherently strange about the final boss battle itself in Mario Odyssey, but there is something that's pretty strange about the lead-up of this final boss. And to start off, I kind of want to talk about how Peach is kind of holding her own against Bowser and pushing that ring away from her. Now, we all know that Bowser is a very strong character in this series, so the mere fact that Peach is holding her own is actually really cool. But it's still kinda strange considering that we never really see this raw power come from Princess Peach in a lot of mainline Mario games. It happens from time to time, but not really like this. There's another really interesting thing about the lead up to this final boss that involves what outfit you wear as Mario. If you wear Luigi, Wario, Waluigi, or Diddy Kong's clothing at the event of the wedding, Bowser will recognize it, but he won't remember who exactly has that outfit. It's almost as if he completely forgets the existence of Luigi, Wario, Waluigi, and Diddy Kong, even though he's met them multiple times in previous history. He remembers the outfits, but he can't put his finger on who exactly that outfit represents. I find it to be overall pretty strange, because Bowser has either fought against the person wearing that outfit before, or has worked with them. And this has happened numerous times before, so the fact that Bowser would just somehow forget who they are is still pretty funny, but also a little weird. The last thing that I want to talk about in this video, and believe me, I saved the best for last, the concept art for Super Mario Odyssey. I touched on it pretty briefly earlier in the video when I was talking about Mario and the human characters, but I want to go into it pretty deeply here. There are a lot of characters that Mario is able to capture in the game Super Mario Odyssey. Whether they be Goombas, Chain Chomps, you name it, Mario can capture it. However, there are also some fan favorite characters in this game that Mario can capture as well, such as Bowser. But there is another character that was actually going to be among this illustrious list, although the idea behind how this character is going to be utilized is still up in the air. And that character is Princess Peach. Now all we have is this one image of Peach having the Mario cappy hat on, and also Peach having the Mario mustache, but that's really all the information we needed. If I were to guess, Peach is probably a post-game content character, whereas after you beat the game Mario Odyssey, you'd be able to go to the Mushroom Kingdom Castle and capture her and play as her as well, similar to Yoshi in the game. Now as for her gameplay, I feel like it'd be similar to that of Super Mario 3D World, but that's really all I have to say about it. Earlier in the video, I talked about how the Koopalings could have been utilized in Mario Odyssey, and same thing goes for Bowser Jr. And this concept art reimagines the Broodals as we currently know them as members of the Koopa Troop. And even though they didn't make it into the final cut of the game, there still is a desire for them to appear in later Mario games. There's even more concept art of what the Broodals could have possibly looked like before their final design, and honestly, they look really cool. Now, the original intention here was to have 7 full siblings, but here we have 4 of them, and one of them looks to be a magician, one of them has like a whole bunch of hats on, another is a princess, and the other is a knight in shining armor. There's another Broodals piece of concept art that depicts them all as birds, and it's pretty interesting, but it isn't my favorite. The last Broodals piece of concept art that I could find depicts all of them as Koopas, and they're all supposed to be like bridesmaids. And I think this is actually a really cool concept because not only does it fit the wedding theme pretty well, but it also fits a whole lot better with Bowser's scheme as he's working with members of his own family, that being the Koopa family. In my own personal opinion, I think this is the ideal direction that Broodals should have went in. Although I'm perfectly fine with what we have now, I still prefer these. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on the Broodals. I'd love to see what you guys have to say. The penultimate piece of concept art that I want to talk about in today's video is Rosalina playing the guitar. And the really interesting yet strange thing about this is, I'm not sure where she could have fit in the story. She could have been playing with the New Donk City Band, but that also kind of feels really out of place for her, considering that she's more of a galactic space kind of character. So with that in mind, she could have been playing her guitar in space on the moon. But that also would have been kind of weird, because why would she be on the moon? But then again, who really cares? We all love Rosalina. It would have been really cool to see her in this game. The last piece of concept art is Bowser capturing Peach, which is the beginning of Bowsette. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, for the longest time I thought that Bowsette was literally just a piece of fan material, and it was supposed to be inspired by what was done in Mario Odyssey, but even then, I didn't think that Nintendo actually thought of this as a concept. Now, I don't know what any of this Japanese translates to in English, and I tried using different translators to figure it out, but none of them seem to really work all that well, and if you do have an idea of what this says, let me know in the comment section down below. I want to see what exactly is happening between these panels. But either way, the basic gist is Bowser kidnaps Peach, and Peach turns into a combination of Bowser and Princess Peach, and it leaves Mario pretty stunned. But anyway, those are just a couple of things that I found to be pretty strange about Mario Odyssey. If you guys like this kind of content and want more of it in the future, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe and let me know that you want more, as there are a plethora of pretty interesting things in the game Mario Odyssey. But either way, I now want to know your thoughts. What was the most interesting thing about Mario Odyssey that I went over or I missed in this video? I want to see your thoughts in the comment section down below. But anyway, I now want to thank my legendary channel members. Thank you all so very much for supporting me and my channel and creating the best possible content that I can create. Videos like these would not be possible without you, and I praise the Lord every single day for you guys. Y'all are truly the best. If you're interested in becoming a member of my channel, there'll be a link in the description down below. But if you want to support me through other means, I have a merch store. And I have all sorts of Sonicsta hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, you name it, I got it. There will be a link in the description for that as well. But anyway, thank you all for watching. This is Sonicsta signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?